My name is Amelia, and I am going to die. I do not say that to shock you. I say it because it is the truth that has been sitting quietly inside my chest, like a second heart, heavy and constant and impossible to ignore. It beats beneath every word I speak, beneath every smile I give, beneath every moment that looks, from the outside, perfectly ordinary. I carry it with me everywhere. I sleep with it. I wake with it. I breathe around it. But before I go, I want to tell you something more important than the truth of my death. I want to tell you about my life. Please, stay with me. Sit beside me for a while. Listen carefully, the way you would listen to someone you love. Because this is the last thing I have to give, the story of how it all felt from the inside. I am 24 years old. I live in a small town that most people would drive past without noticing. It is quiet here. The streets are narrow and lined with trees that change their colors slowly, gently, as if they are not in a hurry to become anything else. The houses are close together, warm with light in the evenings, and there is always the faint smell of cooking drifting through the air when the sun goes down. It is a beautiful place. Not in a loud or dramatic way, but in the kind of soft, patient way that grows on you until you realize you would miss it if it were gone. I live in a small house with a man named David. David is good. That is the simplest word for him, and also the most accurate. He has soft brown hair that never quite stays in place, and green eyes that always seem to be searching your face, as if he is trying to understand exactly how you feel so he can take care of it. He smiles often, easily, warmly, and when he does, something inside me loosens, like a knot being gently untied. He works in an office, long hours sometimes, but he never complains. He comes home tired, but still smiling. He kisses my cheek before he even takes off his coat. He asks me how my day was as if the answer truly matters. He loves me. Not in a dramatic, loud way, but in the quiet, steady way that makes everything feel safe. And I love him. We had plans, you know. The kind of plans that feel so certain when you make them. A small wedding, maybe a little house of our own one day, sunlight in the kitchen, laughter echoing through rooms that belong only to us. We talked about the future as if it were something waiting patiently for us just around the corner. But my body had already started to betray me. At first, it was small things. A tiredness that didn't go away after sleep. A strange, deep ache in my bones, like something was pressing outward from the inside. Headaches that blurred the edges of my thoughts. I told myself it was stress, or the weather, or anything that would make it seem temporary. But the body knows things the mind refuses to accept. The day I went to the hospital, the sky was gray and heavy, like it was holding something back. The air was cold enough to sting my lungs. I remember pulling my coat tighter around me as I walked through the doors, as if fabric could protect me from what I was about to hear. Hospitals have a smell. Sharp and clean and strangely empty at the same time. It filled my nose as I sat in a hard chair, waiting. Time moved differently there. Slower. Louder. Every second stretched itself out until it felt like something you could almost touch. When the doctor called my name, I stood up on legs that already felt weak, though I didn't yet know why. His office was small. White walls. Gray floor. A clock on the wall that ticked so loudly it seemed to echo inside my head. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. He held a piece of paper, but he wasn't looking at it. He was looking at me. And his eyes told me everything before his words did. There are moments in life when the world splits cleanly into before and after. This was one of them. He told me there was no cure. He told me it was aggressive. He told me I had a limited time. I heard the words, but they didn't land all at once. They floated around me, disconnected, like pieces of a sentence that refused to come together into something real. Until he said it clearly. A number. A small, fragile number that suddenly held the weight of my entire existence. And then it was real. I remember the feeling more than the words. A coldness that started somewhere deep inside my chest and spread outward, filling every space in my body. My hands began to shake. My face felt wet before I even realized I was crying. I was alone in that room, but it felt like the whole world had stepped back, leaving me in a quiet space where nothing made sense anymore. I wanted David. I wanted his arms around me, his voice telling me everything would be okay, even if it wasn't true. I wanted something warm to hold on to in the middle of that cold, empty moment. But instead, I walked out of the hospital alone. The world outside hadn't changed. People were still walking, still talking, still laughing. Cars moved along the streets. Someone across the road was smiling at something on their phone. Life continued, completely unaware that mine had just been measured, reduced, and quietly placed on a countdown. It felt strange. Almost unfair. How could everything look so normal when my entire world had just ended? When I got home, the house was warm. It smelled like garlic and tomatoes. David was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove, humming softly to himself. He turned when he heard the door. And he smiled. That smile, it was so open, so full of life, so completely untouched by the truth I carried. It hit me harder than anything the doctor had said. He walked over, kissed my cheek, and asked me how the appointment went. I opened my mouth. The truth sat right there, ready to fall out. I could feel it pressing against my lips, heavy and urgent. But then I looked at his eyes. Hope lived there. Bright, steady, unbroken. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the one to shatter that light. So I swallowed the truth and gave him a lie instead. A small one. A gentle one. I told him I just needed rest. The relief on his face was immediate. Visible. Real. And in that moment, I made a choice that would shape everything that came after. I decided to protect his happiness for as long as I could. If my time was going to be short, then I wanted his to remain untouched by fear for as long as possible. That night, he sat beside me with a big blue notebook, filled with ideas for our wedding. Dresses cut from magazines. Pictures of flowers. Rings circled in pen. Notes scribbled in the margins. He was so excited. He talked about music, about dancing, about how beautiful everything would be. His voice was full of life, full of a future he believed in completely. And I sat there, leaning against his shoulder, breathing in the scent of soap and warmth, and I let myself believe in it too. Not because it was real, but because it felt real. And sometimes, feeling is enough. Days passed. Then weeks. My body grew weaker. Every morning felt heavier than the last. Simple things, standing, walking, even holding a cup, became small battles I had to fight quietly so he wouldn't notice. But he was busy planning. And I let him. Because those plans became something precious. They gave us moments. Little, shining moments that felt normal, even joyful. We went to a bridal shop. I tried on dresses. I stood in front of a mirror and saw, for just a second, not a dying girl, but a bride. His bride. The way he looked at me when I stepped out in that white dress. I will carry that look with me forever. It was pure love. No fear. No doubt. Just love. We tasted cakes at the kitchen table. He laughed with frosting on his nose. I laughed with him even when food had lost its flavor for me, even when swallowing felt like effort. We wrote invitations together. Or rather, he wrote them when my hands became too weak. He didn't complain. He didn't question. He just adapted, gently, quietly, with love. And every night, when he slept, I lay awake beside him, feeling the weight of everything I hadn't said. The truth pressed harder as time moved forward. There were moments I almost told him. Moments when his fear cracked through, when he held me too tightly, when his voice trembled as he asked if I was getting better. But each time, I saw how much he needed hope. And I gave it to him. Even if it was borrowed. Even if it was fragile. Even if it was built on a lie. One night, when the pain in my body wouldn't let me sleep, I got up and went to the kitchen. The house was silent. The air was still. I found a piece of paper. And I began to write. A letter. Not just words, but everything I hadn't been able to say out loud. Every truth. Every apology. Every piece of love that needed to live on after I was gone. I told him I was sorry. I told him why I had kept the secret. I told him how happy he had made me, how his plans had turned my last months into something beautiful instead of something dark. I told him that in my heart, we had already had our wedding. That we had danced. That we had laughed. That we were already married in every way that mattered. I asked him not to be angry. I asked him to live. To love again someday. To be happy. Because that is what love does, it wants the other person to keep going, even when you can't. When I finished, I folded the letter carefully and hid it where he would find it later. Then I went back to bed and lay beside him, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, memorizing it. Because I knew I wouldn't hear it forever. As my strength faded, the world around me grew quieter. Movements slowed. Breaths became shallow. Even time seemed to soften, like it was trying not to disturb me too much. But one thing remained clear. I wanted one more moment. One perfect moment. So I asked for strawberries, an excuse to send him away for a little while. And when he left, Sarah helped me. She brought the dress. The white one. The one he loved. The one I would never wear in a church. She helped me into it carefully, gently, as if I might break. When I looked in the mirror, I saw everything at once. The illness. The exhaustion. The fading. But also a bride. His bride. When he came home and saw me, everything stopped. The world held its breath. He dropped the strawberries. They scattered across the floor, bright red against the wood, like tiny pieces of something breaking. And then he understood. Without words. Without explanations. He saw the truth in my eyes. And still, he didn't run. He didn't turn away. He came to me. He knelt in front of me. He held my hands like they were the most precious thing in the world. And together, in that quiet room, we said the words. Simple words. But full of everything. Promises that stretched beyond time, beyond fear, beyond even death itself. And when he kissed me, it felt like the world had finally come together in one perfect, complete moment. That was our wedding. Not the one he planned. Not the one in the notebook. But the one that mattered. After that, everything became still. Peaceful. He stayed by my side. He held my hand. He spoke softly, told stories, read to me, filled the silence with warmth so I would never feel alone. And now, as I lie here, with my breath growing slower, my body growing lighter, I realize something important. This is not a sad story. It sounds like one. It looks like one. But it isn't. Because I loved. And I was loved. Deeply. Completely. And that kind of love, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't fade. It doesn't die. It stays. It lives in every memory, every touch, every word that was ever spoken with meaning. So if you are listening to me now, I want you to remember this. Do not wait. Do not hold your love inside. Say it. Show it. Live it. Because time is not something we control. But love is something we choose. And if you choose it fully, bravely, without hesitation, then no matter how short your life may be, it will be full. And that is everything.